aliens. They're coming up with that now. Well, you know, aliens could be showing up any day now. Nobody flinched. Nobody flinched. They shot down UFOs. If this was 15 years ago, we would think it's Independence Day. Did you hear they shot down a UFO? Let's build a bunker. What do we do? We'd be freaking out. They went on TV and said, we shut down UFOs. People were like eating sandwiches going, oh my God, these guys are just... And why'd you shoot it down? It was dangerous. How do you know that? Well, we don't. Because we don't know what it was. I like the Chinese spy balloon better. You better hope aliens don't show up and say, take me to your leader. That's gonna be an issue. Do you have cue cards? Well then, take me to your next leader. Oh, damn. Trust me, we have nothing you want, my friend.
Your previous leader.
I just try to stay. The more you ignore news, the more you don't get emotionally involved, the more entertaining it becomes, the more silly it looks. Yes. It really does.
It does.
People are still holding on. And I tell people, you can't get emotionally attached. They want you emotionally attached to politics, to a certain team. You all right? Well, I love you too, but I love you more when you sit down.
Well, as it turns out, there were UFOs at the rally in which Trump was almost assassinated. Like, there were actually UFOs, there were a whole flying saucer and several orbs. Oh, and today, Biden dropped out of the race. And you're not gonna guess who he endorsed. But first, let's check out that UFO at the Trump rally because I'm still blown away. Now, y'all, we're gonna be checking this out over on Think Tank on Twitter. I've mentioned their Twitter page quite a few times. I love their posts, they're fantastic. They're always on the pulse of UFOs. We were talking about the theory that Donald Trump wanted to release UFO information, then it went into Marilyn Monroe, and JFK, and RFK Sr. It was a whole lot. And I was like, maybe this holds not so much credence, until I saw this. A flying saucer with orbs has been spotted during the Trump assassination attempt. So, Think Tank has posted this bad boy. Look at this mother flower. There's legit a saucer right by the flag. And what's wild is he captures it as it zips by. This thing is zooming. Look at it, look at it. Zoom. You guys know that to me that's the sound in my mind when I see how fast they fly. Look at that sucker. It's a full-on disc. And at first I'm like, well, maybe Think Tank, maybe it could just be something flying by and it's so fast we can't perceive it. But Think Tank being incredible and extremely analytical, comes in and dives a bit deeper. It's not just a flying saucer. It's a flying saucer accompanied by several pulsating, disappearing, reappearing orbs. A lot of them. Like, this is intense. This is over Trump's head at the rally where he was almost assassinated. In theory, remember the old video is in theory, because he's attempting to release UFO information. Look at all these orbs appear. First, bro. First, we're starting with the saucer, okay? And we saw the saucer zooming. First, we're starting with the saucer and two orbs. And you're like, okay, well, again, the saucer might be something weird flying by. Maybe the orbs too. But as I said, they are disappearing and reappearing. By the end of this 16-second clip, there's 5 orbs next to this saucer. And mind you, this is Think Tank slowing down and trying to piece this frame by frame because he doesn't know what the hell's going on. So imagine at regular speed how fast these things were zooming in and seemingly just popping into our reality or popping into our space, popping into the airspace around this flying saucer. This is insane. Look at that. And of course he goes deeper. This is why I wanted to come into Think Tank. And again, you know, Cosmic Road posted this 23 hours ago. Think Tank isn't just posting this, he's actively updating it to this very moment. He's still going on about it. His original post was July 20th, but as you see 5 hours ago, he's also grabbing pictures and enhancing pictures. So as the assassination attempt is happening, we have a UFO that seemingly has a perfect bird's eye view of the entire situation. Let's go forward. Look at that mother tucker. It's definitely a round, sphere-like object. Some were saying it's a drone, and again, at first I'm like, you know what, maybe it could be a drone. Until I saw the saucer with the spheres, and I saw the spheres popping into reality. That like blew my mind. I'm like, Cthulhu Master incredibly showed me a new drone. He sent me a link of a new drone that can go pretty damn fast, damn near 300 miles per hour. It wasn't quite there yet, I don't believe. I don't remember exactly. He just sent it to me recently and I watched the video. I didn't get to study it too much. But it was pretty damn fast, but it wasn't instantaneous. It wasn't just appearing into reality out of nowhere like these orbs did. And before we move forward, I have my own my own weird little theory. Well, it's not my own theory. This theory has been around for a while, but I feel like it is strengthened by this. Yes, UFOs could be, of course, extraterrestrial. I feel like it would be weird for them to keep hiding this from us. So there's life on other planets, but whatever. There might be some implications. Yes, they could be interdimensional. We've mentioned this before, of course. I know some people don't like that theory, but it is a theory, whether you like it or not. I don't make this stuff up. It is what it is. It's a scientific theory. It's possible that it could be interdimensional. David Grush has mentioned it. So have some members that have actually seen, some members of Congress that have seen some of this stuff. They have mentioned interdimensional, so it's quite possible. The way they pop into reality, very possible. And that would hold more implications around the world, so I could see a little more why they keep it secret. But also, a theory we've talked about before that has been around for a while, but we don't talk about as much as we should. This could be us in the future. Us in the future, time traveling back to either guide history, see where things went wrong or right, or this could be the way that future historians go back and compile, what we consider history books in the future, with the advancements of technology could go well beyond the pages of a book, right? It could be like this hologram or this immersive experience that you could step in.
Okay everyone, we need to talk about Lou Elizondo and his new book, Imminent, Inside the Pentagon's Hunt for UFOs. In case you don't know who he is, here's a quick recap.
Lou Elizondo is a man who does know. He's a former Pentagon official who ran this program looking into these objects. He joins us tonight. Lou, thanks so much for coming on. So
Thanks, Tucker.
What would possibly be the justification for holding back from the public what the U.S. government, which the public pays for, knows about these objects?
It is my belief that the United States is in possession of exotic material, and unfortunately, that's about all I can say at this time.
People always say, "Well, Lou, these things are clearly from outer space." And I say, "Well, let's hold off on that." I often tell people, look, they can be from outer space, inner space, or frankly, the space in between. There's a whole reality around us. There's life in the bottom of the ocean that live and thrive, and they survive off chemosynthesis, not the sun.
You've actually seen what you believe may well be alien technology, an implant.
I have. I saw a technical device that had been removed, excised by the Department of Veterans Affairs by a surgeon, a trained physician from a U.S. military service member who claimed to have a UAP encounter.
Now, we're just going to jump right into this. I found something strange in Lou Elizondo's book that seems to confirm that at the highest levels of government, it is known that UFOs, or UAP, are actually a biblical phenomenon. Fallen angels and even demonic manifestations of extra-dimensional entities. Now, in order to fully understand this, I'm going to show you a clip from an interview I did back in 2019. Listen carefully because it confirms everything I'm about to show you from Lou Elizondo's book. By the way, a link to the full interview can be found in the description or at the end of this video.
So they go through satanic rituals to communicate, because that's the only method of communication that they know that works to contact these entities. In doing this, there's a small faction known as the Collins Elite. This is where our film picks up. The Collins Elite was a small group inside of this larger group that was originally created to get answers to all of this. But once they began to engage in satanic rituals and magic and alchemy, this group says, hey, you know what? This is not what we signed up for. This small group raises up. It's a faction. It's a counterpoint group, which means that they are no longer in agreement with the big group. They have a different opinion. They say, we have a Christian worldview. This goes against our Christian worldview. And so they see that entities are being channeled and communicated with, and now technology is being given through these rituals to these other members of the government. So the Collins Elite says, whoa, this is dangerous. You guys are really playing with fire here. We can't support this. We can't do this. And they came up with this idea that the aliens were going to take over And that in order to protect our country from the aliens, from the entities, they believed that we needed to instate a forced theocracy based on the law of Moses. Because they thought if our country would go back under the law of Moses, that we would be untouchable from these entities. This group, this bigger group that was researching to get answers, they did not exist. Okay, this was what's known as a limited access program, or an LAP. A limited access program means that nobody in Congress has to know about this.
The Cons Elite were a counterpoint group within different governmental organizations that were party to satanic ritual being used to make contact with these aliens or with these higher entities. And because of their Christian faith, they had the conviction. They saw this taking place and they're like, well, we don't need to be a part of this. This is what the Bible talks about in the worship of demons and of other gods, and especially being, using blood sacrifice and different types of black magic to be able to accomplish it. So they saw that and they didn't want to be a part of it. They also were able to tie this back to what Jack Parsons and L. Ron Hubbard did in the desert in the late 40s.
You've got literally just the group, and maybe a director knows about it. Nobody else. It's completely classified. It's top secret. It's under lock and key. But I want to mention something. One of the bombshells that we dropped was that there's a declassified federal document. Anyone watching this interview can go find this document. It's on the FBI vault. Document 6751. It's a document from the 40s. It was written by a prominent member of academia, and it was submitted to the FBI. In this document, they make a case that entities are not space aliens, but that they're interdimensional or extra-dimensional entities that are crossing over from a plane known as the ethereal plane. Now, we know, as researchers of the New Age movement, we know that is where the ascended masters are supposedly said to be on a high level. This ethereal plane is very popular. When you talk to people who astral project, people who channel, people who remote view, people who want to tap in or go on a trip, an ayahuasca trip, a DMT trip.
Ayahuasca, different trips, DMT, that does allow you to cross over, or allows a person to cross over into those dimensions. Outside of that, the satanic ritual has proven to be the most effective, and from the research that we've done, the people that we've interviewed, that seems to be the constant. That's like it's a guarantee you're going to make contact if you do this.
Now, the federal government had this document in the 40s, and language was used in this document that came right out of the playbook of Theosophy. Now, the guy that received this document, this is so crazy. The federal agent receives the document, and look, the FBI is constantly bombarded with phone calls and letters and emails, and they just can't deal with all of the propaganda from citizens. People make stuff up, and it's just it's nothing. It's crying wolf. So the FBI has to really be careful what they accept and what they don't. But this was back in the 40s. So the guy that receives the document, he recognizes that this information was received through paranormal means. As a matter of fact, the language used in the 40s was super normal. That's the old way of saying paranormal, super normal. So he says that all of this information was received through supernormal means, therefore we need to discount it. It's not valid information. Now, that's the headline that he put. It's like a cover letter. If he really believed that, why did they classify the document? Why did they classify it and then forward it to all of these FBI prominent members at the highest level of security clearance? Why in the world would they classify it and lock it up if they didn't believe it? It wasn't until years later that they declassified document 6751. And I read this document and I'm thinking, okay, since the 40s, the federal government at the highest levels have known that these are not space aliens, that these are entities coming from another dimension. This group, the Collins Elite, they really wanted to create, how can I put this? They wanted to create some type of resistance. Non-aggressive, of course. Non-aggressive resistance. That's what I understand that from my studies. That's what I believe. They wanted a non-aggressive resistance to what was taking place, because they saw that when a man or a group of men began to communicate with these entities, the hunger for power gets greater and greater and greater, and then you're no longer trying to get answers. You're now wanting to ask them to give you blessings. You're now getting technology and information from these entities, and you're utilizing it in the way that you structure your government moving forward. And you would say, well, why would these entities need the government? It's not a matter of them needing the government. It's a matter of setting up the scene for the end times deception where the Antichrist is going to unite the governments of the world. It's all part of their long game. They've been working on this since the beginning of time. It didn't work at the Tower of Babel. The Lord ended it quickly, but here we are today. Where are we today, and what happened between then and now?
Fast forward to August 2024, when Pentagon insider and UFO whistleblower Lou Elizondo writes this in his book, quote, "As long as I'd worked on the UAP issue, I'd heard stories of a powerful circle of religious fundamentalists who shaped policy within the Department of Defense. They were referred to as the Collins Elite. I'd heard the name bandied about, but honestly, I never gave their existence much credence. It was like hearing stories about the long-reaching power of the Illuminati, a secret religious society in the Pentagon. It sounded absurd. Wasn't the day-to-day bureaucracy and existence of the legacy program bad enough to entertain the notion that some generals and their staff of zealots actively promoted a religious agenda which drove policy inside of a sacred yet secular national security institution was simply a bridge too far? Yet I learned that the Collins elite were indeed real. But who were they, and what was their agenda? Were they some sort of formal but secret order within the US government that had been part of the institution from its beginnings? Perhaps it was a rogue Masonic lodge that had managed to co-opt senior members of our military. It certainly made me think of the idea of the Illuminati. The more I thought about it, the more paranoid I became, and the more conspiratorial it all seemed. I could not have pointed out a member if they passed me in the cafeteria. Later, I learned that several of the group's members were former colleagues and even a former supervisor of mine. For now, they remained elusive. Their ability to operate in complete anonymity was their strength. They were single-minded Pentagon and intelligence community lifers with the power to shape policy and kill programs simply with a whisper or a nod. Every action they took was motivated by their religious beliefs. How could this be possible in the United States? Obviously, there should not be a religious-based group in the DoD and IC making decisions based on their theological beliefs. Between the Collins elite and the legacy program, we had two powerful forces that didn't want us doing what we were doing. Both had more resources, and both had differing objectives. One group wanted to kill all efforts to investigate the topic. One wanted to investigate it while keeping the public and us in the dark. Both operated in complete secrecy. I remember a meeting in the fall of 2009 that Jay and I attended with Jim, in which we openly talked about the wisdom of Jim dropping the investigations had gotten involved with that many considered to be dealing with the paranormal and instead focusing solely on UAP threats. I was convinced that if we produced some solid work under the AATIP banner, there wasn't a person in the Pentagon or Congress who could look away, and it would help Jim's efforts. We had found plenty of evidence of extremely advanced craft performing in ways we couldn't replicate and entering controlled US airspace at home and abroad without any repercussions. These facts alone warranted additional resources. Jim refused to lose focus on the overall scope as he felt it was all interrelated. He felt that if he could show DIA and DoD leadership the results of his efforts, any rational individual would see the value of continuing his anomalous investigations. The only problem, the briefing Jim wanted to share with leadership included words like archangels, angels, demons, and spiritual realm. I urged Jim to tone down the paranormal verbiage and focus instead on the importance of this work to U.S. national security. Our UAP investigations made us aware of a very real national security threat, and that was what I felt we had to focus on if we wanted people to pay attention. Lou, it's the truth, Jim said, his voice sounding increasingly frustrated. What's wrong with telling the truth? He had a point. There should never be anything wrong with telling the truth. But in this case, it's how you tell the truth that matters. Jim made a few adjustments to the slides, and we moved on. I felt bad for Jim. The program was his baby, and now people were trying to kill it. Jim believed with all his core that research on Skinwalker Ranch was worth pursuing. As he approached, he put his hands in his pockets and said something in a quiet tone that I'll never forget. Lou, you know we already know what these things are, right? I wasn't sure if Woods was asking a question or making a statement. I'm sorry, sir, I said. What are you specifically referring to? I sensed his annoyance. Deep in my mind, I secretly hoped Woods knew something I didn't. I hoped Woods would reveal to me that these UAP we hunted were actually some sort of secret US technology, hidden deep within the black budgets of the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, DARPA, or the Air Force Research Laboratory. That would have been a welcome relief. Have you read your Bible lately, Lou? He asked. Sir, I am familiar with the Bible, I said. What a strange thing to ask, I thought. Lou, you're opening a can of worms playing with this stuff, Woods said. It was clear to me he was talking about UAP. I can't imagine the look on my face, but I'm sure Woods could tell I was perplexed. It's demonic, he said to me. There is no reason we should be looking into this. We already know what they are and where they come from. They are deceivers, demons. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. This was a senior intelligence official putting his religious beliefs ahead of national security, end quote. One thing I need to make clear is that Lou himself is not confirming they are fallen angels, no. It's the other people inside the Pentagon that do. It's the Collins elite themselves that confirm it. Imagine what they actually know, what they've seen, what they themselves have witnessed. That proves that yes, these beings are in fact biblical, and we need to do everything in our power to keep that from the public. Entities that might be from another dimension, you start to understand why. We need to wake up, folks. The truth is out there. But it's being buried by those who have the power to manipulate reality itself. What else are they hiding? How deep does this go? And what are the consequences of hiding the spiritual nature of UFOs to drive our national security policies? These are questions we need to be asking, and we need to demand answers, because if we don't, we're just pawns in a game we don't even know we're playing. Stay vigilant, stay informed, and don't let them keep you in the dark.
Okay, so this is a continuation from my previous video, meaning behind the creepy clown sightings, cracked, the Nephilim giants returning. And in this video, if you've watched it, which I recommend you do, because it will give you some context for what I'm about to talk about, I'm describing clowns. You may remember, even though it might seem quite a long time ago now, considering all the events that have happened recently with the election, but people were dressing up as clowns and scaring the hell out of people, carrying knives and weapons, just generally standing around looking menacing, you know, for no apparent reason. They just were very creepy, very, very creepy. And people were wondering why, you know, what's going on here? Why are these people doing this? And all sorts of speculation went around the web, you know, publicity to promote the new film It being released. Pennywise the Clown here, being the main character, you know. People thought maybe it was just a practical joke because Halloween was coming up and it scared people. More conspiratorial minds thought maybe these people were doing this to make masks illegal by causing a fuss, getting the people scared and making them demand that people aren't allowed to hide their face anymore. You know, the idea of stopping people from being able to protest or remain anonymous in public and this type of thing. Which I kind of have my own opinions on, to be honest. Masks I don't think are useful. And one thing I've noticed, I did an art piece at uni once where I wore the anonymous mask and just sat there in the streets turning pages of truth, you know, to the people holding this piece of paper up. And I wasn't taking it seriously. I didn't necessarily believe in Anonymous or its values, and I don't today, never really do. I think it's a complete deception. But I paid attention and analysed people's reactions to seeing people wearing these masks in public. And the truth is, the general opinions I was getting from the people in the field asking the questions to the public for me is that they were terrified. When you see someone wearing a mask, it scares people. And also, I've kind of noticed, just paying attention to these things in my own life, that people who wear masks seem to feel confident to do things they wouldn't normally do without the mask, which makes sense. You know, anonymity can fuel that. But it's also a dangerous thought that, you know, someone wearing a mask will do something they wouldn't normally do. Kind of like being drunk or under the influence of some things. Maybe you could say demonic possession. Now, getting onto demons, the theory that I perpetuated was that these clowns being shown around are symbolic of something biblical. I made the case that the Nephilim giants described in the Bible of the past, so, you know, your Jack and the Beanstalk fairy tales from Germany, but then in the Bible you have things like David and Goliath. It's probably the only one that I could mention, but you have the Canaanites, and I think I've written down somewhere, but I believe one of Israel's tribes, I think someone sent them to go check out the lands of the Ammonites or the Canaanites, and they saw that they were as grasshoppers in the sights of these people. So that's quite a, you know, a good example of that. There were giants once in the past, and in Genesis 6 it does say there were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that, when the sons of God came unto the daughters of men and bore offspring, the same children were men of renown. You know, they were worshipped as gods essentially. So here they are, these giants. And I also made respect that most of them are described as having pale white skin, maybe like porcelain, and having red hair. Not dissimilar from clowns that we know of in general. They were known to have 2 sets of teeth, but in a wide way, so 1, 2, 4. They would have a wide smile because of this extra row of teeth on each side. So I made this statement, you know, clowns and Nephilim, symbolically, are one in the same. They look the same. And people sent me a bit of information, and I haven't got it here, but if I get it quickly, that, sorry, there's a mistake there, but clowns and the Shriners were connected. So Shriners, clowns. Now, the Shriners are kind of like a subset of Freemasons. And as far as I'm aware, the clown, or the clown we know of, were invented by Shriners. It's a symbol they created, this secret occult society who worships the Nephilim gods, coincidentally invented the clowns that we know of and love in television, like your Krusties, or your Bozos, to get darker. These are the people, you know, that go around on the Segways, quite famously. Sorry, looks like my internet's going slow here. So here we are, you type in Shriners and clowns, and they seem to have their own little posses wherever they have their covens, I assume. And the way they dress are these insane, multicoloured, pale skin, you know. Here is a giant, ironically enough, next to Shrek, an ogre, which is also a funky coloured giant, let's say. And I made the reference that, you know, the reason they have this psychedelic looking pattern as well is a reference to the Nephilim once more, simply because the Nephilim are disembodied spirits now. They don't have bodies, we don't have giants walking around anymore, but their soul, their spirit, their nefesh, is of the earth. It wasn't from heaven. It was an abomination as such and couldn't go anywhere else when it died. So these disembodied spirits, in the fractaled maze, the funky coloured, multicoloured, rainbow fractal dimension, are trapped there as demons. That's what we call them now. We call them demons. And that's what these things are. So it was a common theme that, you know, whenever someone gets demonically possessed, they end up having the strength of 10 men. Not dissimilar from a giant. I think this makes perfect sense, and I want to share this with people. You know, the Shriners, this cult of Freemasonry, invented the clown. They worship Nephilim gods esoterically, secretly. We know this, so do the Freemasons. So, once again, more confirmation that the clowns represent the Nephilim giants. One thing to throw in while I'm at it, as another connection, the clown, if you haven't noticed, always seems to have red around its mouth and a red nose. I think this is reference to the cannibal nature of them. They were eating blood, therefore the mouths were smeared, more often than not, with dried blood, probably, and so was the nose for just sticking the face straight into the carcasses they would devour. They ate each other, as well as humans. These things were cannibalistic monsters. They had nothing but evil in their hearts continually. They were a part of a mass corruption of the flesh of man. So man was genetically engineering themselves during the time these things were walking around as well. Mankind was splicing their DNA with animals, creating chimera hybrids, half human, half whatever. And these things were roaming around, making more destruction everywhere, along with the dinosaur reptilian lizards they'd created to just terrorize and eat everything around. You know, these things were monsters. And today, they're worshipped and seen as something innocent that children should play with, you know. But if you just pay attention, you know, the parallels are uncanny. And I think I'm onto something here. I mean, I described also in the last video, you know, that I had a vision. I mean, literally a vision. Just laid in bed, half asleep, half awake, and then something just burst into my vision with a massive ringing out in this harmonic tone of just like a DMT trip, if you've ever had one, where you're just piercing through that veil. And I just saw this thing. I've drawn it here. Here we go. Yeah, I just saw this. I couldn't draw it here to do it justice. It was much more multicolored and psychedelic, but the gist of it was this. Basically, black and white lines. It was made of these fractal black and white patterns with rich crystalline purples bursting out in its features. It did have a wide grin going on. And this was 2 years ago, bear in mind, before I'd made this video less than 2 months ago. You know, this is just something I'm connecting now, which the clowns have kind of made me realise. But I saw this vision. And then after I made that video, I came onto something else, which I need to share with you now. A deeper connection that this is not an unheard of image to represent the clown. It's actually very similar to this, which I found, relating to some of the Hopi Indians, I believe. And it's this joker they have. Here's one in an Aztec term. Look at it. There's this ancient jester that would do a ritualistic dance in the aims to bring rain and thunder. It's what I believed it was for, and it was considered the joker, the jester, who was allowed to be a fool and entertain. And here it is with the black and white fractal design. But we can see this everywhere, usually in reference to clowns. The Heyoka tribe is what they were known as. And the Heyoka intergalactic carnival, as it's seen here, but in some artistic rendition of the concept, is, you know, they believed in the fractaled matrix. They communicated with beings from the fractaled matrix. They made dances and references and sacrifices to these things in the fractaled matrix. All these multicolours, crazy patterns are exactly what clowns wear while they're in this other dimension. So I'm saying demons look like clowns. The Nephilim looked like clowns. And the one I saw in that drawing with its black and white fractaled matrix had this going on. Its head, its skull, was shaped like this. It wasn't wearing a hat. It just had this horned, curved horned motif happening. Here's the horns as well. And like this Heyoka tribe, whenever they showed the clown, if I can get it here, no, it had these two horns. these. It was always horned, and it was a part of its being, essentially. Again, this is very similar to what I saw. But it was a giant. I was looking up as a giant, as I described in the other video. Although people commenting didn't quite get my concept when I said they were huge but weren't. It's all about relative size. I was looking up at a giant, not just like this, you could say, but it was black and white, had the big red purplish smile and jester horns, sticking out. And it was terrifying but awe-inspiring at the same time. It had a cheeky look in its face. It's the only way to describe it. It had a plan, It was consciously aware that I could see it too. And I know what the underground psychedelic subculture likes to believe about these jesters. They believe these elf machine jesters are good, and they will say things to you that are offensive, but they've been told by humans who want to enjoy the psychedelic experience that these things are offending you because they're trying to shatter your ego. They're actually trying to show you not to take things so seriously, because everything's going to be okay when you die. Sin isn't real. Look at you taking life seriously. Ha ha ha, what fools humans are. And you look at these things just laughing at you, dancing around you, when you're on these trips on DMT. And you've been convinced from the words of man that these things are good and they're just trying to teach you something. But these things attack people. And it's funny listening to the psychedelic reporters trying to fathom what happened to them. Like, why did these things turn on me? I don't understand. Did I do something wrong? And usually they start to think that maybe they let the fear take over them, so these things were messing with us, and they try to justify that these beings must be good in some way. But what I'm saying is, if you look at your history and where these things came from, these things aren't good. You need to stay away from them. I'm serious. They aren't your friends. They're not trying to teach you any deep wisdom. They're trying to detach you from God and keep you trapped in their fractaled maze. And yes, I know it looks beautiful. I know it looks really, really amazing where these things are. All multicolored patterns everywhere, I get it. I know it looks great in this unseen realm of, like there's eyes everywhere, and there's these psychedelic ropes and streams and patterns and pretty coloured beings just dancing around, laughing and joking, so it seems. But it isn't good. These things are monsters. Very intelligent monsters. They've been around for thousands of years on the other side. And you know what it's like when you trip. It's 10 minutes there can feel like 1,000 years. These things have been paying attention, are wise now. Maybe not when they were first on the earth, but wise now. And they don't like you. They were worshipped in the past as gods, like I said, sacred clowns. Long before they were court jesters to remind the king of his humanity. These are the things on the other side, with the big wide grin. This is probably their true form. This is probably what they actually looked like when they were on the abominations, monsters. But on the other side, while you're tripping, this is a good example. You see something like this instead, and you think, wow, look at these psychedelic fractaled matrix patterns. This being is well beyond me. This being is something fantastic. Look at those eyes appearing all over the place. And you think, yeah, this thing must be able to impart some great wisdom to me. Not realizing that the only reason this being is here is because it has no access to heaven. Because it's a flawed being. It never should have existed. It's an abomination. People go here naively, not realizing that they themselves as a human are way superior to these beings. In fact, you have control and domination over these beings in the name of Jesus Christ. You could cast these beings out when they're trying to possess other people's bodies. You have complete domination and control over them, but you go there on your drugs naively thinking that you succumb to their will, and you have to let them enter you, and you have to let them teach you something, when you could easily just banish this thing and destroy it in the name of Jesus Christ. These things aren't as amazing as you believe just because where they are looks pretty. Where you are now is far more complex than what they are. You are where all those patterns in that other dimension converge. You are in a place that's solid and has pleasure and love and a body to experience things in. They aren't. They're in a place of form and pattern. A lesser dimension, if anything. But you've been convinced and lied to believe these other realms are somehow better than this one. And what God has in store for us at death, where your soul is going, if you should so accept it, is far better than where they are. They are still on the earth here. They are just on the other side of the veil, where you are. These things are monsters. These things were giants in the past that ate humans. All ancient cultures knew of them. These things aren't your friend. Today in modern culture, like Attack on Titan, obviously, you know, we glorify them and make it cool to see these giants with the big wide smile, you know, eating humans. We think it's funny. You know, we think it's cool, but these things are real, and, you know, the people who control the world, the Illuminati, if you want to call them anything, want to bring these trapped souls, the disembodied spirits of these Nephilim back. They want to give them bodies to possess. They want to create a world where they can once again roam. That's the end agenda, essentially. You know, here's another ancient tribe mask with lightning bolts, because like I said, these things are... Here's a clown in the fractaled matrix, you know, blending in, just its head visible, a lot like what I saw. You know, demons look like clowns. Demons look like jesters. They look like this. They are going to be terrifying when they come. They're giants, you know. These things are going to be so creepy. Clowns are creepy enough, but imagine what these things are going to look like. You know, with the big heads and the angular features, you know. Just like this is what I saw, you know, a pointed nose and angular features, but black and white stripes and purple motifs with the big mouths. These things are going to look nasty, you know. These things are going to look like the Cenobites out of Hellraiser. They're going to look strange, but it looks like ancient tribes knew what they looked like, because my vision in modern days, when I was ignorant of this, looked just like this. I've seen what they look like. They look like this. They are insane looking. They terrorize. You know, I start to think this clown manifestation that we saw in real life was them possessing people to dress like they once looked. You know, these people who went out into the streets with knives dressed like clowns were possessed by a Nephilim clown. A demon. They were possessed by a demon, a Nephilim. It's all the same thing. And they wanted to turn the person, the body, the vessel into what they looked like. Which is just like a clown. Our ignorance just makes us think it's a joke. And, you know, we're living in the time when all secrets are being revealed, if you haven't been able to tell with the Podesta emails and, you know, everything else about spirit cooking and the satanic networks that control us. You know, I'm just here revealing more information that God seems to have shown me in some miraculous, strange way of a vision. You know, Nephilims look like clowns, and now clowns have appeared in October. I'm going to tell you straight, these are demons manifesting. This is a symbolic message. Maybe they're coming back, and this is a pre-warning to those who have the eyes to see. Or maybe in the spirit of all information being released, that's why they revealed themselves. So you could know, or at least in their weird, dark magic, they can feel like they've told you that demons are clowns. Whether you paid attention or not is your prerogative, you know. But these things in the ancient past would do an insane dance, half animal, half human, chimera hybrid things, in the hope to bring thunder. And they would ride the horse doing the dance with the horns. It was to bring thunder and rain. I believe I have a picture somewhere around here. Here we go, here's a good example. And as we know, behold, I saw Lucifer fall from heaven like lightning. You know, the lightning bolt is a reference to Lucifer usually, and you know he'll come like lightning in the end. And here we have these monsters being associated with lightning, the demons. So yeah, that's all I can really add to this, and I think it's something we need to really pay attention to. You know, these practices are still happening today. These beings are still being worshipped by the fools, the jesters. But they aren't your friend. Remember that. They are not there to enlighten you if you go to the other side. Using these drugs, when these clowns start to jump in and out of your body and you feel like you're downloading information, that isn't what's happening. You're losing your soul, you're entertaining demons. You're being tricked into believing where they are is better than where you are now. And where they are is better than where you'll end up when you die. And if you believe that, then that's where you'll probably end up. And God has much better things in store for you. This world is here to deceive you right now because Satan seems to be in control for a short time. God is ultimately in control and he can't do anything without his permission, so pray for protection and you'll get it. But that's all I have to say for now. Please comment, like and subscribe, and also you can donate if you feel as though you want to see more of this. Obviously I'll be making more whether you donate or not, but the option's out there. Just go into my actual homepage and the donate button for PayPal should just be there. Other than that, please take this seriously. This isn't a joke. This is real. This is what's happening, and it's manifesting physically now. People are going out dressing up like clowns, wearing masks, threatening people with knives. If you think that's bad, just wait to see what happens if these mental narcissists, psychopaths manage to actually bring these things back from the other side. It'll be much worse than a few idiots wearing clown costumes. Trust me.
Her presence is persistent, and she haunts every image she... Take a seat. This is a true horror story, and veers sharply. LOAB is relentless. LOAB is inevitable.
The art of computer graphics is only in its infancy. Yet it is already stimulating creative thought in far-out areas where research is likely to get complex and unwieldy. It offers not only the means to quicken the pace of discovery, but an ideal way of communicating what we may discover.
Ever since the 1960s, researchers have been able to translate images into text using machine learning. But how much further would they go? Or, more importantly, how far could the machine go? So, facing a John Henry-esque situation, scientists ask themselves, we can translate images into text, but can we translate text into images without using pre-existing photos? When using AI to create images, you will feed some key terms or prompts into the machine. How vague or specific the prompts are is up to you. You simply plug in whatever you desire, and the AI creates it based on the resources that are available. However, what if you tell the machine to do the complete opposite?
Affirmative, Dave.
We've seen computers translate images to text, and then translate text to images. But what happens when you provide prompts to the machine, and then tell it to generate an image as far away from those key terms as possible? This would be described as feeding a negative prompt. A prompt that you want the machine to generate the polar opposite of. For instance, this image was negatively created by Twitter user Supercomposite using the prompt Brando -1 or Brando with a negative weight. Supercomposite decided to push the AI a little further, using the logic that if Brando and negative weight gives this image, then what happens if they use the text inside the image as its own prompt? Brando -1 gave them digitapintics. So what would happen if you fed the generator digitapintics as a negative prompt? Meet LOAB. The results started off disturbing. However, we could brush it off simply as being a little too surreal and uncanny for our brains to comprehend. But as Supercomposite fed more and more prompts, LOAB remained present. LOAB was planted onto our brains via the hands of AI, meaning no human hands had the capability to remove her existence. LOAB is a grotesque creation, a grotesque mistake made from latent space, a formula used in machine learning in which the machine takes multiple pieces of data and positions them closer together if the data resembles each other. It's why faces can sometimes be generated nearly perfectly. A machine simply knows that there are holes in our face, and sometimes hair, and the data within the latent space will be pieced together to present this image. Earlier in the thread, Supercomposite mentioned that their friend had used AI to generate this image with the prompt: hyper-compressed glass tunnel surrounded by angels in the style of Wes Anderson. Supercomposite would then use that generated image as its own individual prompt, and then combine it with the original image of LOAB to get this. What we're looking at here is a close-up of LOAB. But according to Supercomposite, this wasn't the only image generated from the combination. The Angel Hallway plus LOAB also produced art with such copious gore that probably very few people want to see them. But here are two. I don't feel comfortable posting the most disturbing ones. Borderline snuff images of dismembered, screaming children. Again, the concept of latent space can justify why it's able to generate her face, to an extent. But what doesn't make sense is why artificial intelligence began generating gore alongside LOAB, and why specifically was it choosing children as its victim. Through some kind of emergent statistical accident, something about this woman is adjacent to extremely gory and macabre imagery in the distribution of the AI's world knowledge. For whatever reason, LOAB became addicted to being attached to gore. While we might briefly understand how this works, it still doesn't explain why it's generating gore, and why so violently. A user on 4chan theorized that since the AI is a largely accurate mapping of visual concepts within the collective human imagination, maybe it's plausible that the spaces between such concepts likewise reflect things in our mind that we aren't consciously aware of as recognizable concepts. That seems like it would have occult implications. Another user attempts to wrap it up merely as a nonchalant coincidence. It's not a creepypasta in that it is a real phenomenon, just not one which is entirely paranormal. LOAB is a quirk of the latent conceptual space of stable diffusion-powered image synthesis models, which this person on Twitter stumbled on accidentally by feeding nonsense prompts with negative weights into the model. This meant that they found a coherent concept within the model's knowledge, which wasn't connected to any concept as a human would recognize them. LOAB is a ghost in the machine. In a sense, she is a reproducible and consistent idea, in this case, an image, which only exists in the negative space between real concepts and ideas which the AI has been trained to understand and to reproduce. It just so happens that this emergent thing in the latent space is adjacent to a bunch of disturbing imagery in the high-dimensional geometry of the model. There are a lot of things like LOAB in these AIs. It's just difficult and usually pointless to find them. There's not much to theorize about this, in my opinion, as it seems to be just a tool of artificial intelligence with one hell of an internet cache library to choose its data from. I guess I just can't shake off the fact that, as everything progressed, LOAB became enticed with more and more childlike gore. Even with the explanation of latent space, that still means there's a reason that the AI pulled data that chose to match LOAB with dead children. But I'm just a YouTuber. And as a YouTuber, I think the images are disturbing enough to be their own video. Alas, here we are. What do you think, though? Your opinion is just as important. Is LOAB just a wildly coincidental concept created through a vivid yet well-trained machine? Or is LOAB truly a ghost stuck in the machine?